I'm Cain, Director of Research at PayPal, and I'm going to piggyback right off of the space that Anil outlined for us. As a director, I am acutely aware of when our insights are successful and when they're not successful. I know that research is more likely to be used and valued when our team members are more hands-on. We see it. We see it at workshops. We see it in working sessions. We see that, just like Anil outlined, knowledge is passing through people, not reports, not keynotes, not PowerPoints. But why? Why do we have to be so hands-on in order to be successful? Workshops are so much work. They take so much time and so much planning, and just, they don't scale. So this is the question that I asked myself about 5 years ago, and the answer is this. When we're hands-on, we cultivate an environment where research feels inclusive and accessible, and that enables people to be confident, and it also enables them to have the agency to use and apply the research on their own, right? This is the conclusion that I came to, and immediately honed in on accessible. That was the path forward. We need to make our research more accessible. And here begins my story with the research repository. In 2018, I built my first one, and it was very precious to me. I loved it. I did it again at Viasat. I did it a second time at Viasat. It's a long story. And I'm doing it again at PayPal. But it wasn't until this third time that I realized that making our research more accessible was not going to cut it. The research repository wasn't going to cut it. We needed to do a lot more. And the question that I should have been asking myself, which I actually think is kind of ironic for a researcher, is how can we make our insights more usable? How can we improve the usability of our insights? That the research repository was just a first step of many steps that we needed to take in order to cultivate this environment that we wanted. So after this relearning, I don't want to call it an aha moment, like a facepalm more, but me and my team came up with, over the years, we've come up with principles to ensure that our insights are more. And they are, to us, insights must be accessible, connected, defensible, tangible, and secure. And these don't have strict definitions. They show up in different ways, but the best way to think about them is that they have key focus areas. For accessible, we focus on integrating ourselves and our insights in with teams and the way that they work and the way that they communicate instead of just focusing on consolidating files. For connected, we focus on human connection and relationships, but also dot connecting instead of just focusing on the documents. For defensible, we place an emphasis about talking about our research strategies and the questions that we're asking instead of talking too much about the methodology. For tangible, we focus on contextualizing our insights through the use of frameworks and diagrams and visuals instead of relying on these very long, very detailed reports. And for secure, we focus on teaching our stakeholders about research analysis and ethical data handling instead of just governing who has permission to our tools, even though DSCOUTs make that a little easier. So I am going to rapid fire take you through 8 tactics that I have used and developed over the years that I actually have found are actually, they're working. They're working a little. It's happening. Tactic number 1. Minimize lengthy, difficult to schedule research readouts, and instead record a 5-10 minute video of your key results, send it out to your stakeholders. Schedule a follow-up meeting where you're applying those research. Work with them to apply the insights. Help them make sense of what they're doing, but you're gonna have to work together to do it. Be hands-on, but in the right moments. Tactic number 2, reduce time spent on polishing and branding decks, please, and instead build functional research templates that are used so that they can be easy to navigate. Think of building templates like you would building a product, right? You're focused on the usability of the product, not just how well it's written. This is an example of a usability report that we organize according to major, minor, and cosmetic problems. They're always designed in that way. We always ensure that we present them that way, so our stakeholders always know that the biggest problems are at the front of the report. Tactic number 3, avoid organizational silos and report segregation, and instead make explicit connections across different types of data and even across different teams if there are commonly shared metrics. So for example, we don't own NPS or CSAT, but we make a point to draw on them and connect them across reports, right? Just because we don't own the data doesn't mean that we're not responsible for making sense of it and drawing on those connections from different businesses. Tactic number 4, try not to rely on one huge study to do all your heavy lifting, and instead create a tagging framework that facilitates the dot connecting across different dimensions of research, like qual and quant, and evaluative and generative frameworks. Tactic number 5, reduce the use of jargon and avoid placing too much emphasis on methodology. I know that's like against our researchers' souls, but instead try to provide radical transparency into data collection and research strategies and develop a shared vocabulary and use it daily. This is a glossary of our key metrics, which come with poor testing indicators, and we use them and we socialize them so that our stakeholders not only know what we're measuring, but also how to analyze it on their own. Tactic number 6, stop using PowerPoints, as I'm presenting from a PowerPoint, as the sole medium of the way of sharing your insights. Find ways to make your insights more intimately felt, more real. Something that is concrete and something that they can relate to. Quick example, we did a generative research study on users who have to install satellite internets on their home. Right, it's a very complicated process. And the way that we shared out this research was not in a report, but we played a video of what that installation process is like from a YouTube video that one of our users posted. And every time that they hit a pain point in that installation process, we played a quick clip of a user actually talking about that. And that was the entire presentation. And to this day, people still talk about it. Tactic number 7, minimize report density and text-heavy artifacts. Visualize, frame, illustrate. Try to make your research organized in a way without using a paragraph or a quote or a text. I had a stakeholder refer to this slide as a money slide. It was a huge research project that took so much time, and it was probably like a 100-page deck. And the one thing that got shared was this diagram. That's the one thing that got used and framed, a 2x2. So they're really important. Tactic number 8, last but not least, don't fixate on onboarding people to your tools and its functionality. Instead, onboard teams to the process of research analysis. Onboard them to ethical data handling. Try to create an environment where you're helping them learn instead of just governing the tools. This is an example of biases in research cheat sheet that we use to onboard a lot of our stakeholders who are participating in research. That's it. Thanks so much.